Welcome back to another episode of whatever it is that I'm doing. Alright, I'm gonna turn this around because I can't look at myself while I'm doing this. Boom! I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to talk about Zombie 100 things I want to do before I become a zombie. Okay, so typically, I don't like zombie movies, anything related to zombies. I don't really like it because it's overdone. You know what the story is. Zombie apocalypse breaks out, the main character meets the other characters, and then they survive together. Either they don't find the cure and they continue surviving and they make a sequel to whatever it is that we're watching, a series or movie or what have you, or it just ends there. Blah. That's it. Zombie 100 is just like that. But the reason why it's interesting is how the main character, is how they write the main character, Akira, and how they mesh him into the whole zombie apocalypse. So Akira is a young man, Japanese. This is a manga. It's new. There are not a lot of chapters out. But it's still really good. It's worth watching. Because, what's so interesting, right, is, Akira, a young Japanese worker who is, depressed with his job. As with, when you start working in the working world, it is very stressful. But this job that this guy was at was terrible. So he's at what is known as a black company. So black companies are, I think they only exist in Japan. They might exist in other places in the world, but I know them to exist in Japan. Basically, a black company is a company where you work non-stop and you're very stressed, right? You work like 24 hours. You don't get to go home. Most of the people that work at a black company sleep under their desks, or they literally buy a sleeping bag and sleep at work. It's just terrible, right? And the first chapter actually explains, well, it doesn't explain, but it illustrates how bad it is for this guy. Well, for anybody. Because, alright, the first day he works, he's introducing himself to all of his coworkers, right? But here's the thing. While he's there, everything is fine. But afterwards, after work, typically Japanese people, it's the culture to go out to a bar and drink and eat food after work, which they did. But what was weird for him is the fact that after they were done eating and drinking, and you would think that the workday is completed and they can go home, the boss who's there is like, all right, let's get back to work. And Akira, who was the first day, right? He's surprised, like, wait, we're going back to work? Isn't work done for the day? Nope. Back to work. And they actually showed a clock where they were working up until like 1:30 or 1 in the morning, if I remember correctly. Now, imagine that. You're working for a company. It's your first day and you have to pull an all-nighter on the first day. Jesus Christ. I don't think I would have left. That's the thing, because you're so new, you don't know that you can just leave and do something else or apply for another job, or God forbid you don't have any other prospects coming to you, so you have to keep this job. So you're kind of stuck. But yeah, for me, I built a connection with this character because he's not a typical like high school shonen kind of guy. He's literally a working adult, which I am. So that resonates with me a lot better. Granted, it's still kind of traditional in the zombie sense, but we'll get to that later. So with this guy, he's working and the days just go by and he's getting more and more depressed. And you can see that he's legit depressed because his room is not taken care of. His apartment is literally a mess. There's garbage everywhere. He's always sleep deprived. And at one point, he actually contemplates like suicide by train. So there's a panel where there are, where he's at the train station trying to get a train. And there are some doors that keep you protected from getting onto the railway tracks. And he was contemplating to like go in front of the train and just end it. That's how bad this job made him feel. He didn't do it because that would be a terrible end for a manga. But it goes to show how like terrible those kind of working conditions are. And I think the writer, the mangaka, actually worked at one of these companies and he's actually bringing in those experiences back into the story. I think he actually went through that, or somebody else who was a part of the writing team went through that. Typically, the writing team for animes and for mangas is like 1 or 2 people. One of them is usually the artist. But anyways, the story picks up when he goes to sleep at home and he wakes up. He goes to give his landlord, I think it's rent, or he's paying for something. He's paying for something. He's going to the landlord to give him a check. And when he knocks on the landlord's door, it's open. So he like opens it even more, like, "Hey landlord, you there?" And he's greeted by a zombie. And I love his reaction to this. He's like, "Oh, what's happening here?" And then the zombie turns around and looks at him and he's like, "Oh." And then he runs. That's how you do it. I hate seeing like in horror movies where somebody sees something happen, something scary, like a zombie, a ghost, a creature, whatever, and they're just like staring at it forever. That's like, that's so stupid. Like human nature would dictate that you run. Like, alright, I'll give it the pass. I'll give that the pass for like older movies, because it was made in a time where they weren't really aware of these kinds of stories. So there's no premise set beforehand for them to be used to, right? Oops. Sorry. My chair makes a lot of noise. But anyways, so for newer series related to like horror, that kind of surprise and frozen effect of the main character or the person that sees the horrible thing, that shouldn't be happening anymore. I don't want to see that happening anymore. And I really like the fact that he just went running, just ran, right? And he was running into zombies throughout his complex, and he just kept running. He just kept it moving. Another thing that was interesting is that he was a rugby player, so that explains his stamina. Typically in these movies you'll have, well, in movies and shows and animes, you'll have like a main character who has always been lazy, or they don't seem athletic, they don't have like an athletic past. So why is it these people can keep running forever? Like, running takes a lot out of you, especially when you're scared, right? Because you're using more energy. But with this guy, you know, it makes sense that him can keep running for that long, because he was a rugby player. So his body was actually kept in shape. This is a good manga. I think it's good, and it changes the whole zombie trope and makes it interesting. But once Akira realizes that, you know, this is the zombie apocalypse, he's happy, he's elated. And the reason why he's elated is because he doesn't have to go back to work. Imagine that. You're working at a job that's so bad that when an apocalypse occurs, you're happy that you don't have to go back to work. Yo. So you see how interesting this guy is? I don't think I'm doing him justice, because I'm not good at this whole, you know, content creation thing yet. But the manga is worth reading. And I think it's one of those mangas that will get an anime. I think so, because it's good. It's playing on a trope that is already understood. So it's going to be easy for people to grasp it. One thing though, it doesn't have a lot of fan service, so I think maybe that might hurt it. It doesn't have that much fan service. I'm trying to like remember, like later on there is a bit, but not like anything that we're not really used to in anime, right? I think it's pretty mellow in terms of the fan service. That's good. I prefer that. Like, fan service gets really annoying. Especially once you get older and you realize it's literally a crutch. I don't want to see it anymore. Give me a good story. Give me good characters. And you have quite a few good characters here. The main character is Akira. I just explained his whole thing. And he has a friend that they were in college together doing rugby. And he decides to go and, you know, see if his friend is still alive, because they were best friends. And this is interesting too, because it goes back to human relationships in the real world, where his friend, Kensho, right? Kensho is in a successful company and he's happy. He's got his girlfriend and he's making a lot of money. So he's happy and he's telling Akira about this. This was when they were like at a bar or something, right? But Akira was jealous because his company is, as you know, a black company. So it's not nothing good. Right? And I don't even know if he was making that much money. That's the next thing. I don't know if he was making that much money. But, Kensho was telling Akira that, hey, you need to just leave your job if you don't like it. Right? You can just do that. But Akira didn't listen to him because I think we've all gone through that point in life where like, yeah, at that job, you know, like you don't want to leave because you don't have any other prospects coming in. So you just feel stuck. So he chose to just stay. But, when he met up with Kensho explained to him that, hey man, my job is shit too. Like, yeah, I have nice things, but it's just as bad as yours. Like, granted, I do make some more money. It's still pretty bad. So it just goes to show that just because, you know, somebody has everything in life, well, not everything in life, but just because somebody has, you know, an outwardly good looking life doesn't mean that everything is, you know, 100% on the up and up. It doesn't mean that they're 100% happy with everything that's going on in their lives. And the job is, a lot of people have problems with their jobs, right? And I've been in that position. So that's why this resonates so well with me. And I think like people who have had bad jobs will like this. They'll see something in it that they can like. There's a lot more to this anime in the fact that they wrote it like after the whole zombie apocalypse occurs, like Akira changes from being a depressed person to being a very happy person, right? And it's like somebody who reads a self-help book and they actually try to implement the things in the self-help book. Like cleaning the room, which he did. Akira cleaned his room in the zombie apocalypse, right? And he made a list of 100, he made a bucket list of 100 things that he wants to do before he dies. That's why he went to meet Kensho. And, it's very interesting the fact that him making that list gave him more purpose in life. So even though there's a zombie apocalypse, he wasn't worried about that because for some reason, him having a goal nullified the danger aspect. It not really nullified, but it reduced the danger level of the zombie horde. That's pretty interesting because when he created the list, he decided to go to, I forgot the girl's name. I think it's Otsuki or Ototsuki. I think it's Otsuki. So Otsuki is, I think it's Okutsuki. I might be wrong, right? Otsuki is, a girl that he had a crush on at work. Granted, this girl was the, chairman's or his boss's girlfriend. So that was, it's not a good idea to go after your superior's, love interest or partner. It's not a good idea to do that. So he didn't. But now that the zombie apocalypse is, you know, is happening, he decides to find Otsuki and confess to her. You know, how he finds her is it's kind of saddening because he finds her at her apartment, right? With the chairman, right? And they're both naked. So put two and two together. And when he opens the door, he's greeted with the chairman, who is a zombie. And he immediately like tackles the zombie. The rugby skills just came into play. Who would do that? Like that? What? Don't tackle zombies. That's not the right way to do things. Right? But then you saw Otsuki and she had bite marks on her body. She was half naked and she was a zombie. Akira like got all the bravery that he could and confessed to her, even though she was a zombie. Granted, she couldn't like reciprocate any feelings because she's a zombie, but I respect the fact that he still confessed to her, even though she was a zombie. That counts for something. It's weird, but it counts for something. And he just moved on. I don't know if they wrote it like that just to move the story forward quickly, or, you know, it just goes to show what kind of person Akira is, because he's adapting really fast to the zombie apocalypse, as with most other people, and that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense that if you are surviving in a zombie apocalypse, you should be adapting quickly. Like, there's no two ways about that. This is an emergency and you need to adapt fast. So it's very interesting to see a main character who is adapting very quickly. And they actually show the counter to that, because he had some neighbors below him at his apartment that he would climb when he's climbing down to to get supplies for himself, he would stop by and ask them, hey, you guys need anything? And they would say, yeah, we need some food and beer and what have you. But they didn't leave their apartment. They didn't leave. And they were terrified. They were too terrified to move or do anything. And at one point, he's going back down to get more supplies. And when he passes their apartment he's actually climbing on the side of the building on like a drainage pipe going down. But at one point when he passes them, he notices that, there's zombies in there and there's a lot of blood on the wall. So these two are dead. So to me, it's like, how did the zombies get in there? Because the apartment should be closed, right? But how did they get in there to kill these two? That was kind of weird to me. But it's interesting to see that those people who were scared and stayed inside, they died. But this guy and most of the other people who are running around trying to find means and ways to survive, they're surviving. Because they have other survivors. I won't tell you any more about those survivors. There are other characters added to the cast too. Not telling you nothing about them neither. Because I think this is worth a read. It's a good manga. And hopefully my prediction comes true and it becomes an anime. That would make me feel amazing if it becomes an anime. Just to know that, I was right. And I recorded it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bitch.